Keir Starmer's ambitious plans for Britain's clean energy future suffered a humiliating setback this week at the prestigious International Investment Summit in London. Designed to woo top global investors and demonstrate Labour's commitment to becoming a world leader in clean energy, the event was supposed to be a cornerstone of Starmer's economic strategy. Instead, it turned into a public embarrassment when former Google CEO Eric Schmidt openly criticised the Prime Minister's regulatory policies, warning that the UK's overcomplicated bureaucracy would likely prevent it from achieving its 2030 clean energy goals. Schmidt's stark warning raised serious doubts about whether Labour's plans to decarbonise the energy grid could be realised in time, sending shockwaves through both the government and the business community. But before we dive into the details of how Starmer's energy strategy seems to be unravelling, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more updates on this unfolding political drama. Starmer's administration had placed high hopes on the summit, pitching it as an opportunity to secure billions in foreign investment and demonstrate the UK's commitment to green energy and technological innovation. More than 300 top global CEOs and business leaders descended on London for the event, with promises of substantial investment in areas like artificial intelligence, life sciences, and most importantly, renewable energy. The Prime Minister had billed the event as a critical step toward making the UK the fastest-growing G7 economy, with a focus on creating tens of thousands of new jobs in clean energy. But instead of basking in the glory of new investment deals, Starmer found himself on the receiving end of a brutal public rebuke that exposed the flaws in his plan. During a high-profile panel discussion, Eric Schmidt took the stage alongside Starmer and wasted no time pointing out the glaring issues in the UK's regulatory framework. "The cost of capital and the delay is killing you," Schmidt said bluntly, referring to the sluggish pace of decision-making in the UK. His remarks weren't just a critique of Britain's bureaucracy, but a direct challenge to the very heart of Labour's energy plans. Schmidt, a billionaire tech entrepreneur who knows all too well the importance of streamlined regulations in fostering innovation, warned that unless the UK government fixed its broken regulatory system, it would fail to meet its ambitious 2030 target for decarbonising electricity. Democracies, especially something as old as this one, have so many ways in which people can say no, Schmidt told Starmer, as he stressed the need for quicker and more decisive action. Starmer, visibly uncomfortable during Schmidt's takedown, attempted to defend his government's approach. He acknowledged that the pace of decision-making was a significant challenge and promised to make it a cross-government priority. However, his response felt vague and reactive, and many in the audience, particularly the business leaders who had come to the summit with high expectations, were left unconvinced. The Labour leader had promised to rip up unnecessary regulations and bureaucracy to encourage growth and investment, but Schmidt's remarks made it clear that there was still a long way to go before the UK could compete on the global stage. This incident could not have come at a worse time for Starmer, who has been under mounting pressure to deliver on his government's green energy promises. The Labour administration has positioned itself as a global leader in the fight against climate change, with a bold pledge to fully decarbonise the UK's electricity grid by 2030. This commitment is a cornerstone of Labour's economic and environmental agenda, with the government banking on the creation of green jobs and a transition to renewable energy as a way to kickstart the country's stagnating economy. But Schmidt's criticism highlights the deep structural problems that could prevent this vision from becoming a reality. Even before Schmidt's public remarks, concerns had been growing within the business community about the feasibility of Starmer's energy targets. Many investors and industry leaders have pointed out that while the government's goals are admirable, the UK's slow and cumbersome regulatory process makes it difficult to get anything done. The approval process for new energy projects, particularly large-scale renewable energy developments, is notoriously slow, with projects often delayed for years by red tape and bureaucratic inefficiencies. This has led some investors to question whether the UK is a viable place to put their money, particularly when other countries are moving much faster to build the infrastructure needed for a green energy future. At the summit, Starmer tried to counter these concerns by emphasising his government's commitment to reform. He promised that his administration would make economic growth a top priority, and that every government regulator would be required to take business growth as seriously as the private sector does. But despite these promises, Schmidt's intervention left many in the room questioning whether the Labour government had a realistic plan to deliver on its energy goals. The summit was also overshadowed by other controversies that have only added to the sense that Labour's economic strategy is faltering. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, found herself in hot water after hinting that the upcoming budget could include an increase in employer national insurance contributions. This move, which many see as a breach of Labour's election manifesto pledge not to raise taxes on working people, has been met with fierce criticism from the business community. Employers argue that raising national insurance contributions would place an undue burden on businesses, particularly small and medium-sized enterprises, at a time when many are still struggling to recover from the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Reeves defended her position, claiming that the government needed to balance the books and close the £22 billion hole in public finances left by the previous Conservative government. She argued that businesses would understand the need for difficult decisions, insisting that without fiscal stability, the UK would struggle to attract the investment it needs to grow. However, her remarks did little to assuage concerns that Labour's economic strategy is veering off course. Paul Johnson, head of the Institute for Fiscal Studies, described the potential tax hike as a straightforward breach of Labour's manifesto, while Jeremy Hunt, the Shadow Chancellor, blasted the move on social media. As if these setbacks weren't enough, Transport Secretary Louise Hay sparked yet another controversy when her remarks about P&O ferries threatened to derail a £1 billion investment deal from Dubai-based DP World. Hay had referred to P&O ferries as a rogue operator following the company's mass firing of workers in 2022, prompting DP World to consider pulling out of its investment in the London Gateway Port project. Though Starmer eventually managed to salvage the deal through last-minute negotiations, the incident highlighted the delicate balancing act Labour is trying to maintain between being pro-business and defending workers' rights. Despite these challenges, the summit did result in some positive news. The government managed to secure a total of £63 billion in international investment, with deals focused on renewable energy, technology and infrastructure. Notably, Octopus Energy announced a £2 billion commitment to build new solar farms, while US firms pledged billions to invest in UK data centres. But even these wins have been overshadowed by the broader controversies surrounding the event. In conclusion, the International Investment Summit was meant to showcase the Labour government's bold vision for a greener, more prosperous future. Instead, it laid bare the significant challenges that Starmer faces in delivering on his energy promises. Eric Schmidt's public rebuke has highlighted the flaws in Labour's regulatory system, casting doubt on the government's ability to meet its 2030 clean energy goals. Meanwhile, controversies over tax policy and business relations have further eroded confidence in Labour's economic strategy. Starmer now faces the difficult task of rebuilding that trust and proving that his government can deliver the results it has promised.